and basketball to talk about with Matt. Did you enjoy your Thanksgiving, Matt?
I did, guys. It was great. How about you?
Yeah. It was quiet. Normally out of town. We were in town this year, which it was nice to be local.
I got a day off from Steve. It was great.
There you go.
I felt the same way. I was very thankful for that. Let's start football. We'll certainly circle our way into basketball. But, we were talking with Mike Monaco from ESPN earlier in the show about whether or not this is, truly an important game. I think locally we talk about how this is important for momentum and, for getting in the top 25 and for all that good stuff, a better bowl game. How do you feel about this game, Matt? Does the outcome matter for Syracuse University football one way or the other tomorrow?
Of course it does. I think it's been totally underplayed. I think this is a huge game and has not a lot of risk of losing it. I think if you lose, they don't take away any of the other 8 wins you have or any of that other stuff. But I think a win here is really big. I think maybe one day you guys might start the show with football sometime when you're talking the day before the biggest game in 30 years. So I think that's what it is. Miami hasn't been here. Miami showing up alone is a big deal. Miami, now that they've gotten regularly good again, is another big deal. Miami coming in while Syracuse is good is a huge deal. So, all of the effort that's put into creating an atmosphere at the Dome and those types of things, this one to me deserves a little more.
All right, let's talk about this opponent. And, Miami's coming here. We know the drill, right? They're ranked in the top 10. They lead the country in scoring. They're, top 15 in sacks. And if they win, they're going to the ACC title game. Well, what is most impressive about this team? Is it Cam Ward? Is it, what stands out to you as you've been getting ready for this game?
Well, the quarterback's phenomenal. I mean, he can hit every part of the field and has a veteran presence to him. And, Miami has athletes. I think you flip it on and you see kind of those same types of names that pop up. And it's funny because if you look just at the stats, like in my mind, I'm thinking, well, Xavier Restrepo is, go-to guy and is this, game wrecker in every game he's played. I'm just looking right now, 60 receptions on the year for just under 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns, pretty good. How many guys does Syracuse have that has 60 catches? That's something they've been spreading the ball around and have been a very productive offense throughout the year. One of the things I think that's most intriguing from Miami's point of view is that it's got to be a source of embarrassment for them that in this whole time in the ACC that they've been in it, right? I think they played the title game one time. And for them to get back there and to have that within arm's reach is a really big deal for them. So I think you're going to get their best. I think they know that, for them to, quote, be back, it's going to take being in those types of games, and they've got to win this one to be in that one.
Would you look at this as a huge upset if Syracuse were to win it? Or do you look at it as, Syracuse belongs in a game like this? They can certainly win a game like this, and on any given day, anything can happen.
I'd say it's a medium upset, pretty big, not completely unthinkable. You got to – maybe it's fake it till you make it. You got to feel like your home field advantage works for you. Syracuse talent-wise, the gap between Syracuse and Miami hasn't been this close in terms of material in a long time. Syracuse has a lot of good players too, and pros and productive players this year. So is it going to be completely unforeseen that Syracuse could win this game? No, I think they have a path and they know what they're doing and can be right there. So that's all a step in the right direction too. But it is going to be an achievement. I mean, to knock off a top 10 team in the Dome in these circumstances, to get to your 9th win in the regular season, is a pretty big deal.
What are you expecting atmosphere-wise tomorrow? What kind of attendance? I know they're trying to get 40+. You think we'll see 40+ in the stands tomorrow?
I hope so. I mean, to me, I feel like it should be a foregone conclusion at this point, but it's not. So, that's why they have those Black Friday pricing deals and different, gadgets and things that people can check out online. So, whatever it takes to get people in there. We did that interview with John Wildhack early in the week. I guess primarily the goal was to publicize that type of thing, that, whether it's a tie-in with the Georgetown game or whatever else people need to tickle the buying bone to get in there and come in and join everybody, then hope to see as many as possible in there. I think the precedent of late has been that this Thanksgiving weekend game is often an afterthought. There's basketball being played somewhere, you get caught up in the holidays and family and different things, and instead of building up to it, it's almost been played down to a degree, and to have a meaningful last game of the regular season. There haven't been a lot of those in the last 2 decades, and this is what you are playing for. This is what you're trying to get to. You want to have some sort of viability, something at stake, and more than just sort of bookkeeping of your own record is the difference between 5, 6, 7 wins. There is a big difference between 8 and 9 wins and the type of bowl you go to and where you start off next year. And some of those things that Mike Monaco pointed out about, it's just a fact of the matter, like it or not, about how the national media views you and what gets their attention and what wakes them up. You know, you want to be ranked in the preseason top 25 next year, you're going to want to end this year in the top 25.
Yeah.
You know, it certainly goes a long way toward that. So not that anybody's concerned with what their next year's preseason ranking is. I only bring that up because that indicates sustaining, right? You know, when are you going to stick? Is it just going to be a good season every few, or are you going to stick and raise the floor a little bit? So that's what I think is a lot of what Coach Brown's message is about building a program, not just one team, and you need to do a lot of things right to establish that.
Yeah, and you would assume that resonates with recruits as well, that if you start the following year in the top 25, that certainly helps. In terms of pulling off this upset tomorrow, what is the biggest key for Syracuse in your mind? Is it on the offensive side of the ball, or is it on the defensive side of the ball? Obviously, they're going to have to play well throughout, but what's the biggest key in your mind?
I know I probably say this a lot. I see game like this hinging on just 1 or 2 big plays, a turnover, either a play or a lapse in the kicking game. But let's just go with turnovers. There wasn't one at all in the UConn game. That was played sort of straightforward and the Syracuse win. But the previous game at Cal, Cal's pretty good. Cal should have probably beaten this Miami team. They had them up 25, right? So, and Miami's, obviously escaped in a couple of these situations. But Syracuse got off to a big early lead in that game because they had interceptions on the first 2 times the defense was out there. You take that away, and maybe that is a lot tighter game down the stretch. It still wound up being a 1-possession game, right? So I see this one being right there where both teams can match each other's wits in terms of scoring. We're talking about 2 of the better scoring teams in the country, certainly in the conference, 2 great quarterbacks. They're not going to be flustered, but is a tipped ball caught or not caught? Is a fumble recovered by the defense or not? Those types of things that come up, to me, and that's what's going to change this, because you want to find a way to have an extra possession, certainly, with your explosive offense, and let's see. So I think that's the margin. Yes, Miami deserve to be ranked higher and all that. Sure they do. So it would be a little bit of an upset if Syracuse were to win, but it's not one that's beyond their reach.
All right, let's switch gears. Let's talk a little basketball before we let you go. And I think, Red said after the game what we kind of were all thinking, which is it looked like this team took a step forward down in New York. And then this game against Cornell, it kind of felt like, well, maybe they didn't. And maybe they took a step back. What do you make of what we saw Wednesday night?
Yeah, I'd like to think it wasn't a step back, except, it just can't be 8-0 the other team 2.5 minutes into the game. It just can't. I mean, can you play it 4-4, 6-2? 5, any other combination? You just can't be calling timeouts 2.5 minutes in because you're buried. And that to me is just mind blowing. So, the ball bounces that way once in a while, and you're going to have a bad shooting day or this, that, and the other, all the different types of excuses you can make. But yeah, it is concerning. Now they are winning the games. They haven't beaten the 2 power conference teams they have. They've got other chances of that coming up in this next week. So I'm not getting too bent about the lack of real margin against the Lemoynes and Cornells of the world. But yeah, they've not played to their fullest. They've got a lot of room for improvement. There is time to figure it out, but they're really going to have to go against conference play and tighten it up.
On the positive side of things, how about the two freshmen, Donnie Freeman and Elijah Moore, and what they brought to the table the other night? And I know Freeman's got to get better on the defensive end, and Red's been very vocal about that. But on the offensive end, he's scoring, he's rebounding. Moore came in, provided a spark. I guess what can you say about these two freshmen coming in and again making an impact right away for this team? And if they want to make it to the NCAA tournament, they're going to need more of that. Yes.
You need it all. I mean, it's apparent that they're recruiting at a high level. They're bringing in freshmen that are ready to make an impact. Everybody knows about next year's class, and with Moore and Freeman, that's where they are. I mean, it is rare to think they're going to come in and dominate, so it does take some easing in and figuring it out. We'll have Coach Autry tonight, and one of the things I want to talk with him about with Donnie Freeman is, Freeman needs to be going forward, not backward. I think anytime that Donnie Freeman is taking a fadeaway shot or those types of things, he's doing you a favor. I mean, that might have looked good in an AAU game, and I'm sure he's made his share of those shots. But go to the basket, use athleticism, rise above the rim. The types of things that he can do better than certainly anybody that Cornell can do, So, and Moore, it takes a little while to get his feet wet, but yeah, he can be a real factor here. Somebody's got to make shots, and you can't have too many non-scorers on the floor at one time. I understand the philosophy behind Jaquan Carlos and what he's asked to do, and some others here, but you need somebody to put the ball in the bucket.
I guess last question before we get you out of here. Great opportunity coming up against Tennessee, but it's a road game. They're top 10 for a reason. Obviously, a very good opponent. What are you expecting to see, on Tuesday night down there in Knoxville? And I guess, how important is this one given the fact that Texas and Texas Tech, ended in close games but losses? I mean, they obviously are going to need a marquee win. It's going to be a tall order, obviously, on Tuesday night.
Yeah, this one's tough. I would say tougher than the
Sure.
Texas and Texas Tech games. We know some of the personnel and what Tennessee has. I mean, granted, their last game was against UT Martin, but they held them south of 40 points. This one is really tough. But as you say, your number of sort of stretch games, non-conference, are running out. If you're going to reach up and grab one, this is a chance. So is Maryland, those types of things. I'm not to look past this one, and we'll talk on next week's show before it. You got to win at Notre Dame. That's in this coming week, that's how I view it. I think the Tennessee game is another measuring stick. If they somehow pull that one off, that's a real bonus. And but the next one they really got to get is Notre Dame, and maybe that gets them on some sort of momentum here through December into conference play.
All right, first things first, though, we're talking football. It's a 3:30 kick tomorrow inside the Dome between Syracuse and Miami. Matt, as always, appreciate the time. Have a great call. We'll talk to you again next week.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Should be historic. Looking forward to it.
All right, the voice of the Orange, Matt Park, joining us here on the show. We'll hit a timeout. We've got Thad Brown from WROC in Rochester coming up here in about 15 minutes. Back after this.